You should. You want if your business deal is motivating you to work on yourself, gewaldig. You should do it and don't stop. But don't think because you're doing that you're going to get the deal. Now, it might happen. That's because the Kadosh Baruch Hu decided whether you did the lashon hara or not.
Well, it comes to stuff, but you're allowed to test the other things.
So it's true. It's true, and you can.
It's a dangerous move. No, I'm just saying.
But
Torah talks about it.
But
you have to be smart about it. You can't put it.
Also, be about talking about it.
Of course, you can't think, well, I did it and it didn't work, and therefore it's all.
Listen, this week's parsha. Yaakov Avinu gives Meiser, and Chazal say you could test the Kadosh Baruch Hu with Meiser. You could test him. If you give the Meiser, you'll see that you'll get it back, right? So now go give a tenth of every single last penny. Do it. But for some people, it takes a bitachon to get there.
Most people try to make sense of the world around them, and that's why they're constantly trying to make these kind of evaluations. Usually, when things are going great, and life is good, we don't make so much judgments. It's when things are not going right, and the challenge is that's when we start to point fingers and say, "Well, it must be because of this, it must be because of that."
And what's the problem? And because when things are going well, we're not pointing fingers.
Right, I'm saying that's
because when things are going well, we're not pointing fingers towards the Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the point. Mm-hmm. We discussed that's Shaar HaBitachon. When things are going well, if you would say, "Oh, Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's you, and that's you, and that's you," and why am I so zochet to that? I can't believe I'm so zochet. I shouldn't be. I should. You work on that. Then when the times are hard, you'll be like, "Oh, Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's you, that's you, that's you," and now that I'm not making the money, now I understand because why should I be zochet? Right? The same lines you say when it's good, you'll say when it's bad. But if you don't say them when they're good, they're going to be impossible when it's bad. It's like lifting weights. It's just mental, emotional, spiritual weights versus the physical weights. You have to put your time in the gym if you're going to build a muscle. I think so, right? I guess you could take some kind of creatine or something, but still, you need help. Weiter, he says, we're on the page here. This is a branch. There's a certain foolishness that a person thinks that, like we were talking about, that I should receive chasadim from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Why? Because I do mitzvahs. I do ma'asim ketanim. This person doesn't have a proper evaluation, doesn't have a proper sense, relationship with the creator of the world. If he doesn't really understand, because of your little ma'asim, you can't be zocha to all that a Kadosh, meaning you can't cheshbon from your little ma'asim ketanim that you should receive this money. Like we were saying before, there's so much more that goes into every single cheshbon that you can't start even having a havamina to have a thought like this. This is an important point, just for a minute. There was once, and I learned this from Rabbi Nachman. It was once a Torah. He was talking about the machlokas between tzaddikim. Machlokas between tzaddikim, big gedolim. And the way that I say it, I don't think he said these words, but if you think that you have an opinion, I said two lashonos there. If you think that you have an opinion about what's going on between these massive gedolim, I'm not defining who a gadol is, but if it be true tzaddikim, true gedolim, true, and you think that you have an opinion between the two, then you should know that you're an idiot. Mm-hmm. If you think you have an opinion, and if there's a bona fide machlokas gedolim, again, to decide what that's considered, I'm not. And it could be there's nothing nowadays that's considered that at all anymore. Could be. Mm-hmm. But for you to think that you have an opinion in this, then it means you don't know anything. So put that to the side. When it comes to the way the world works, if you think you have any idea how Kadosh Baruch Hu runs this world and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense and why I should get, why that guy shouldn't get, why that guy should get, then the fact that you even think you have an opinion means you're out to lunch. We have to drop that big time. It doesn't mean don't live life. But stop with the cheshbonos, because it only hurts us. Because you can't know. You'll never know. It's impossible. It's a losing proposition. So to think about why these things happen, it's not worth it. After you work on a Munah B'Tachon and you download it in Mamish and you go years, Kadosh Baruch Hu, whatever you want, and everything's good, and you become a tzaddik, maybe then there is what to work with. But at our infancy stage, it is no point of trying to think. It's like a 10-year-old trying to understand why the CEO of some massive company is doing what he's doing. It can't. It's not possible. There's so many cheshbonos. It's not just it's not just brains, it's experience. It's too much. But if we continue to think this way, it's only going to hurt us. And it's going to dissuade us and impede our ability to trust in him. Because the more we think we know, because I'm a good guy, right? That's usually what our problem is. I'm a good guy. Like, it's not a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I've said this many times. I understand I shouldn't get X. Yeah, that's a lot. But come on. At least, right? At least that. At least a little bit. We do it all the time. If you don't think you do it, you do it. All the time. Kadosh Baruch Hu, I'm not asking you for that, right? We ask for something, and then we don't get it for like a few months. And then we say, but Kadosh Baruch Hu, I'm not asking you for, the 10 million. Come on. I'm only asking for that. And that guy has it, and this guy has it. And I do daf yomi, and again, you're in the world of cheshbon. Who is that going to hurt? Only the person himself. If a Kadosh Baruch Hu could print out an entire spreadsheet of why I'm not giving you what you want, it'll be 5 million pages long, because it takes into account past, present, future, Gilgulim, this, that. It has to do with why he doesn't give you right now. It has to do with the price of tea in China. It does, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu, everything by him is cheshbon. So it's too big. Why are we even trying? You don't have to try. Just have bitachon in him. Doesn't mean be a fool. We understand. I think we understand. It means do what you need to do. Always do your hishtadlus according to your madrega, what you're holding. Do. But that's it. Leave the cheshbonos. Get out of there. That's not for you to do. So all your cheshbonos that you make, that we make, should be in the world of hishtadlus, not in the result. Which just gives a person a way out. I don't want them to think that, so you can't think at all. It's hard people to hear these words. No, you could think. Of course you could think, but put it into your hishtadlus, not into the results of the hishtadlus. That's where Bitachon says, cut ties with your cheshbonos, cut ties with your chachma, your binas, your dasas, your cheshbonos, your schach. Get out of there. It's not going to help you. If it's coming to you, it's going to come. If it's not coming to you, it's not going to come. All your cheshbonos isn't going to make it come. Right? It's just not. This is from shooting by everybody. If you just get it, you just gotta kind of get it over here a little bit. Okay. And then he goes in and he says, Halakha b'taivus v'gaiva. What's going to prevent a person from avodas Elokim, serving Kadosh Baruch Hu wholeheartedly? Mele, it's going to prevent you from bitachon, taiva again, and gaiva. Gam kein lo yikabel al atzma avodas Baruch Hu. It's impossible to fully take upon yourself the yoke of a Kadosh Baruch Hu and the Torah and the all and the mitzvahs and the emun and the bitachon if you have ritzonos and desires that you want to make sure are fulfilled, or if you have gaiva, which are either both big sugyas, it's going to be impossible. Anyway, Adkan, this part from the Sefer, all these impediments of the earlier gates will impede us from bitachon. So we have what to work on, yeah? So let's continue here. Page 238. Gematria Rachel. I was speaking of Rachel Mena yesterday. So. Okay, so 238. We're in the third paragraph. It just has two words. Mafsid of Od. Besides the impediments that we just discussed at length, right here in the Sefer he doesn't go through it because he assumes that you already learned it, which is why the Sefer is built the way it's built, and we're going to go back. And anybody who wants to start Chavos Avos, I suggest you start from the beginning. Mafsid of Od, other impediments to a person's trust in God are as follows. Hasichlus be'inyan haborei u'midosav hatovos. Ki mi she'eino mevin rachmei haborei al bruov v'haganoso aleim v'hashgachaso u'moshlo bahem v'shem keshurim ba'asurov lo yanuach libo v'lo yismoch olav. Let's read this, just the exact translation, very slowly. Foolishness that people have regarding the greatness of the Creator and his positive attributes in which he conducts himself with his creations. Okay, so this foolishness is going to prevent a person from having bitachon, being a fool. What are these nekudas of foolishness? For such a person who does not comprehend the Creator's compassion for his creations. If you don't comprehend the Creator's compassion for his creations, what do you mean? I know that. I know Shem Zir Rachamim, Kil Hashem Hashem Kil Rachamim. What do you mean? We say Rachamim, we say Rachamim, we say Rachamim all the time. We all know that. person doesn't comprehend the Creator's compassion for his creations, one, his conduct over them, which is the Haganaso, right? The Kadosh was always the Mogain Avram. You have to know, what does that mean? The Mogain. V'hashgachaso is his supervision. It's a big sug in Amunah. Hashgacha pratis, hashgacha klalis. Umoshlo bahem, and his rulership over them. Again, someone who does not comprehend these things. He said 4 massive sugyas. V'shem kishur basurov, and his HaKadosh Baruch Hu's connection to them, to us, with his chains, basurov, we're bound to him, will not be able to have peace of mind or land. So if we don't understand these sugyas, the sugya of Rachmanis, the sugya of what it means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Hinei lo yanam v'lo yishan shama Yisrael, if we don't understand his hashgacha, all these things are going to prevent us. Now, a lot of these nekudos really are mentioned earlier in the Sefer. It's really those 7 conditions, the 7 conditions that all of Bitachon is based on. Bitachon is defined as, I used to do this for the first 2 years of this year, remember? Every single time we would start. What does Bitachon mean? I'm going to make it clear. Should I test everybody? What does the Chovos Levavos? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I will give the answer. And you can think about it if you don't want to say it out loud. But how does the Chovos Levavos, Shaar HaBitachon, define Bitachon? Chovos Levavos. You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I will say it in 5 seconds. Menuchas hanefesh. That is the definition. We haven't done it in like a year and a half. Not like I trust, not menuchas hanefesh, which is a state of being. It is a state of being. It's a mindset. It's a feeling. You are, the English translation, calm, I guess. It's much more than that, but menuchas hanefesh. That's a definition of bitachon. To get to that, there's a list of intellectual beliefs to be able to give you the chance, and the rest of the Sefer. Kadosh Baruch Hu is compassionate and loving. He's attentive. He's almighty. I'm just reading from page 54. We've done it many times. He's all-knowing. You're only in his exclusive care. You're in his hands. He's generous and kind. There's a lot of details there. But those 7, if you don't have these 7 worked out well, then you're going to have holes in your bitachon memela. There will be times and situations and events of life that you will not be able to have them, menuchas hanefesh. What he's mentioning here, a lot of them are, he's discussing these 7, that's going to impede you if you don't have these 7. It should be obvious, but at the end of the Sefer, he's bringing it back into our understanding. Many people don't learn. And here we're talking about, let's say, Chovos Levavos. They don't learn. Why don't they learn? Because they think they know. Right? Many people don't learn. Why don't you learn about Emunah B'Tachon? I go to shul 3 times a day. Obviously, I'm an amen. What are we talking about over here? I give tzedakah. I gave a lot of money this year. Obviously, I trust in Hashem. So people don't learn because they think they know. That's a problem. Some people think, they're deep thinkers. They think about the world. They think about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So they don't need to learn. Or they think, they think they don't need to learn. Because, I think about Hashem. I think about him in the creation. So then they don't learn a sefer called Shaar HaBitachon. Because they think, through their thinking, they can get to it. Which could be some people can. There were a few people in history who got to that. Besides the Chovos Levavos. You know who they were? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Yeah. So, happens to be, I believe 100%, I'm saying it stark, that this sefer is based off of Avram Avinu's, meaning the way that Avram Avinu found the Kadosh Baruch Hu and lived life. This is the sefer was built that way. And a person can, and is supposed to, live like the others. But after this is all said and done, you still need the Torah, because the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave it to us, saying, the madrega of the avos is not enough anymore. And you also need the Torah. So you have to learn. And some people learn many, many svarim. They'll even learn Shaar HaBitachon, but they don't think. Right? They'll just read what the tzaddik is saying, all true, and it will help, but they don't then think, and they don't bring it in. To be able to properly not be a fool, right? To not be a fool, you need to learn. But then weiter, you have to be a maven. Hasichlus, the foolishness, you're not learning. Kimishenu maven, because you don't have bina, because you're not thinking. And then lo yanuach libav lo yismach lav. Then you won't be about. Then you have no das. Right? There's learning. There's thinking about the learning. Then there's thinking how that learning applies to me. We will call that, for our purposes, chachma, bina, and das. If you don't have das, then how are you going to get to v'hashevos el levavecha? Where's menuchas hanefesh? V'hashevos el levavecha. You can't get to that without learning, not being a fool, thinking about it, being a maven. It's funny how that word is the same, right? Maven. And then understanding how it integrates with me, which is das. So this whole sefer, you learn it once, you think about it, and you draw it down. If you don't have that, then it's going to be impossible, really, or fully, to rely, to have your heart, lo yanuach libav lo yismach lav. You won't be able to have a menuchas hanefesh from the leiv and to trust, to support yourself by Kadosh Baruch Hu. Right? So even after we learn this once, and even if we're giving hours of shirim, you still need to think about it on your own. Have to. How does this apply to me in this situation with myself? And we've discussed that, about having groups of people speaking with each other. I told you there's a group of guys in Florida that have taken the Shaar HaBitachon. I think it could be the shirim that I'm saying also as well. And they have buddies, and they sponsors. They go back and forth with each other. They have a list of questions, bitachon questions specifically. Are you going to live by bitachon today? Yes, I'm going to live by bitachon today. That even though things might get hard, I'm going to trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to try my best. They go through the whole thing. They have chavrusas. They have mamshav chavrusas. This is the avodah l'maisa. You remember that? I'm sure you remember this. The difference between the machlokas between the two boys who wanted to learn about bitachon. Come on, you remember this? The two guys who wanted to learn bitachon, and then a machlokas how they were going to go about it. One says, We'll come back in 3 months, whatever it was, and we're going to see who learned bitachon better. So one kid learns every single sugya in the Gemara and the Shas and the Poskim, all the Svarim, Chavos Lavavos, cover to cover, everything, in order to learn bitachon. And the other boy learned, I think, a little bit of Shaar HaBitachon, and every single night he would go there's pitch black behind the yeshiva or something, and it was dark, it was like a forest, and every single night he would walk in 10 feet, he'd wait there for 20 minutes, an hour, Mamish be scared, and he'd have to go back. And then the next night he'd go a little bit further, the next night a little bit further, the next night a little bit further, right? Until he was able to stand in the middle of the forest in the nighttime, trusting in Kadosh Baruch Hu, and he was okay. So after 3 months, they come back together. Remember this, Maisa? They come back after 3 months, and he knew what'd you learn. So the first guy gives him a kuntrus of 150 pages. He says, "Wow, that's taka amazing." So then he says, the second boy, "Knew what'd you learn?" So he says, "Come back tonight at 11 p.m." So they come back and they start walking slowly through the forest, and the first kid is the one who's the Baal Bitachon. He's walking in fine. The other one's mom is shaky. He can't. And at a certain point, he runs out. And the guy's like, "That's what I learned about Shaar HaBitachon." I mean, you could learn all you want, but it has to be l'maisa. Okay, that's my push for Vaita l'maisa. I was just thinking that it was a very funny Shabbos by my house. There's a lot of jokes. I don't know exactly why. I just realized this thing called the kichels. I never saw this before. I already know it. I feel like I'm out to lunch. Happens to be very, very funny. Anyway, so there was a lot of joking. And I remember a Maisa once that there was a guy, and he was making some jokes with a group of people. And Ered is dying. They're laughing. He's so funny. And there's one guy on the side. He's not laughing. And so the Baal HaTzchaik, looks at the guy's not laughing and says, "No, why aren't you laughing?" This guy's like, "I don't think you're so funny." So the first guy says back, "I don't think you got the joke." If you don't get the joke, it's not shaykh to laugh, right? It's very simple, but sometimes you're not laughing, not because it's not funny, because you didn't get the joke. Sometimes you have people, they say, again, when I say they say, I'm talking to each one of us in our own heads, and that's all that matters, is that we'll say to ourselves, "Yeah, bitachon, yeah, of course I got it." But then then you have to ask yourself, well, then why am I stressed out right now? Why am I so anxious? Why can't I calm myself down? Well, then you'll say, well, it's because that guy, or this thing, or maybe you just don't get it. Maybe you learned about it, maybe you heard the joke, but you don't get it. Right? The guy who doesn't get it never thinks, unless he's a humble person. If he's a humble person, he'll say it. But if he's not humble, he's never going to say it. No, I didn't get it. He's just going to say it's not funny. But in fact, he didn't get the joke. I saw the scrunch over there. Okay, so it's very important to be a chacham, to be a maven, to have das in these sugyas. Again, you have to learn it, you have to think about it. It's also by the way, you could use a Kadosh Baruch Hu. You could daven also. Kadosh Baruch Hu, I really want to learn the Sefer. Good. Hey, then you start learning the Sefer. Kadosh Baruch Hu, I really, really want to understand what's being said. Good. And then you start to understand. Kadosh Baruch Hu, can you also help me understand how this applies to my life? We could use these tefillas. All these things. There's so many things that we want to learn, we want to understand, we want to live by. But do we ask him even? We'll open up Chavos Levavos. But have we ever asked the Kadosh Baruch Hu to open up our hearts to allow the Chavos Levavos to be downloaded into our heart? Did we ever ask the Kadosh Baruch Hu, I know that I'm going to get tested. Remember when I told you that in the beginning? I think my most common email or comment that I'm getting from these shirim is, why did you tell me that if I learn Chavos Levavos I'm going to get tested? Remember I told you about that? A long time ago? If you're learning the Inyan, Kadosh Baruch Hu wants you to live the Inyan. So the only way to go from the learning to the living is through tests of the Inyan. It's the only way. There's no other way. Remember, the 150-page kuntras was the guy who went to the back of the yeshiva. You can't fake it. So, I think I lost my train of thought.
That we're going to be tested.
We tested that part, I remember. Okay, I remember where I was going with that. But, personally, we have to work on it. I forgot where I was coming with this. Okay. What? I know. Why did I come into that? You won't know that because that's in my head. So there's a limit.
It had to do with kichel.
See, even a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Yes. Oh, the jokes. Yeah, the jokes. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, see, now we're working here. All these things. Now I don't remember exactly to put it all together, but it's okay. But that's also okay. Let's do it for now. Let's do one more here. On 239. And I'm not going to go into all these. I'm not going to go down, break down what it means that creates compassion and his conduct and hashgacha pratis. These are all sugis that we have to constantly be learning and working on. Again, it could be in the beginning of the Sefer as well, the beginning of Chavos Levavos. Anytime we have an issue with bitachon, we have to go back to the basics. Adkana. Let's do one more. 239. Umehem sichluso b'mitzvah sabor yizbarach. Another foolishness that we have that impedes us. Ritzoni lomash taraso asher hizir balismach alav v'livtoach bo. Kamash Amar b'chanuni na bazos. The Amar bitchu b'Hashem adayad. Another impediment, ignorance regarding the commandments of the Creator, may he be blessed, meaning his Torah, in which he has warned us to rely on him and to trust in him, as it says, and test me now with this, and trust in the Lord forever. I don't know if you remember, a long time ago, I brought you a gra in Mishlei. But there's a gra, Vilna Gaon in Mishlei, where he says, pretty clearly, some people want to change what he says, but it's pretty open, that the entire tachlis of Torah, I didn't bring it in now, the entire tachlis of giving of the Torah and learning Torah is to get to a state of bitachon in Hashem. The more you learn properly, with the proper foundations, the more you come to trust in the Kadosh Baruch Hu. If the king of the world has a book and it's on the side and you know it's there, you know it's got a lot of stuff, you've peeked at it once in a while, but you don't read the book. The main way he deals with us in this world is the book. If you don't read the book, it just shows that you're not connecting to him. The more you read the book in a healthy way and you believe in the book, and it's going to help you out. It's very simple. It's going to help you believe and rely and connect to the one who wrote the book, the king. Very simple. So if a person wants to work on trusting the HaKadosh Baruch Hu fully, it is his world, everything comes from him, we have to just learn more. Learn more. Learn more Torah in a healthy way. Now, we're going to end with this. I know there's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of miseducation in that world. I understand, because when I say learn, everybody's saying, when do I have more time for Gemara? I don't know, I can't do. We have to know what learning means. It's not really for now, but any of these svarim here, there's a lot of them, and there's more than these, on all topics, any of them are considered learning. And the more a person learns, and he doesn't have to finish all the svarim, it's not your malacha to finish them, but you're not a ben chorin to just say, well, it's too many, I can't do it. Any sefer that a person wants to learn, because he wants to learn, and he believes Torah Lishma, whatever you want to call Torah Lishma, I'm not going to give any definitions. Torah Lishma, you want to learn Torah, try to do it slowly, carefully, no rush. Shnai Mikra, we're talking about that in Yin Afshi a lot. Shnai Mikra, Chumash Rashi. Work on that if you haven't been working on that for years. Simple. It will help a person on his bitachon. But if the books of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are sitting on the side and all you're doing all day long is working and or doing other extracurricular activities, even sometimes chasadim, if you're not properly balanced in your learning, so then it's going to be difficult to have bitachon. If it's difficult to have bitachon, then you have to work more because you're stressed out. And if you work more, you have less time to learn. If you have less time to learn, then you have less bitachon potential. And if you have bitachon potential, then you have to work more. You understand the loop? So one of the impediments, and separate from everything else we're discussing today, one of the impediments of bitachon is just we're not learning as much as we probably could. We're not learning the svarim we probably should. You might not even know what svarim those are. And we're probably not learning in the proper, healthy, slow, relaxed way that we should. You don't have to finish Shas to have bitachon. You have to learn one line with sincerity. That itself will help us. I'll continue next week.
That's right.